The ruthless genocide of the Pol Pot regime was made into movies in The Killing Fields and First They Killed My Father. The intellectual class was a target of the Pol Pot regime. During the Lone Wolf regime, high-ranking officials, doctors, pharmacists, professors, and the middle class were executed indiscriminately, and those connected to Vietnam and foreign powers were all purged. Moreover, to prevent revenge, even their children had to be put to death. The Revolutionary Army was truly madness itself. Children even had their heads smashed by being thrown into a tree, so that they could not get revenge when they grew up. Also, to save bullets, they were often killed by hitting their heads with farm implements or hammers. In such a horrific atmosphere, if anyone didn't want to be target of the massacre, they would keep quiet and disguise their identity or even risk their lives to escape. In this way, the National Foundation was terribly destroyed. People with white hands who could only read or those with glasses were segregated as intellectuals, tortured, and killed. The gallbladder of the victim removed before death was also used as a medicine for high-ranking officials. Most of those who were slaughtered so horribly were innocent people. At this time, there were about 300 killing fields nationwide. The killing fields are mass graves created by the massacre during the Khmer Rouge regime. A representative place is Tuol Sleng, also known as Asia's Auschwitz. Now a genocide museum, it was the most infamous security prison and execution site. Originally a high school, it was converted into a horrific slaughter center. About 20,000 people were brought to Tuol Sleng, but only 12 survived. Today, the Tuol Sleng Museum has become a world-class place to commemorate the atrocities of that time. The remains and relics of the victims' iron beds and shackles and torture instruments are on display. In addition, detailed murder methods of the time, torture records, and photos of the dead bodies of the victims have been kept. It is said that anyone who visits Tuol Sleng can feel the cruelty of the time so vividly that they get chills. The young victims in some photos are full of startling marks, such as having a nameplate pinned with a prison number on their neck rather than their outerwear. In just 3 years and 7 months, about 2 million people died out of a population of 8 million. Most were either slaughtered or left to die of starvation or disease. The elimination of a quarter of the population in such a short period of time could not otherwise have happened unless there was a war. It was an unprecedented death rate caused by the unreasonable greed and delusion of the dictatorship leaders. On top of everything, Pol Pot was an anti-Vietnamese racist and a communist dictator. He recklessly invaded Vietnam and occupied part of the Vietnamese territory under the pretext of restoring lost old lands. This soon provided a cause for the Vietnamese army to invade Cambodia, which eventually led to the downfall of the regime. On December 21, 1978, 100,000 Vietnamese troops attacked Cambodia. Since the Vietnamese army was armed with the best fighter jets and numerous types of advanced equipment left behind by the Americans in the withdrawal, the Cambodian army was no match at all and collapsed powerlessly. For the Vietnamese army, this war was as easy as fighting children. At the end, when the Vietnamese army occupied Phnom Penh in 1979, the extremely unrealistic fantasy communist world that Pol Pot dreamed of met its demise. Pol Pot fled to the northern mountains and continued guerrilla warfare. Then he died alone in the jungle in 1998 without a word of apology for the great slaughter he had committed. Pol Pot's body was burned along with garbage. Pol Pot set Cambodia's national development back nearly 100 years and the population declined drastically. In particular, as all of the high-quality manpower absolutely necessary for national development was massacred. The nation's power declined and it gained a shameful reputation as one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia. After the Pol Pot regime, a pro-Vietnamese regime led by Heng Samrin and Hun Sen came into power in 1979. As a result of its population growth policy since then, Cambodia has become one of the countries with the lowest average age in the international community. In the mid-1990s, as many as 10 million landmines were buried in Cambodia due to endless civil war. Every month, between 200 and 300 people were killed or injured by stepping on landmines. That is why Cambodia was also ranked as the country with the highest rate of disability. The tragic modern history of Cambodia clearly shows the sorrow of a weak country that was powerless among the surrounding great powers and how dangerous reckless dictator was.